welcome to Jurassic Park 3 Minute. We'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And on today's episode, we're back to finish out the week with minute 59 of Jurassic Park 3. But before we get to that, Dave, on the back of last minute's discussion about the Fallen Kingdom cutscenes here, over at Jurassic-Pedia.com, Tyrannosaur TJ has posted up a full article on the cutscenes from Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. Now, all these cutscene articles here have actually been transferred over from the original Jurassic Park Legacy website. These were originally just kind of little drop-downs that were part of the original infrastructure on the site. That you just went to the main site and you went to the various movies, and they had the like the production notes and the cutscenes and stuff like that. But this one, as I mentioned, we in the last minute we have the extended dig site where we see Grant digging up the claw and kissing Ellie, and then we also have Ellie's leaf grab, which explains how she got that leaf in the movie. It was originally from the trailer of the movie where we see Ellie grab a leaf from reaching out of the side of the Jeep.
Yeah, which that is never a smart thing to do. I've been fishing and grabbed reeds and sort of grasses by the river and cut my finger down to the bone because that thing hasn't wanted to come out of the ground or break off.
It is a very big leaf too.
Yep.
But some of the others we have on here include and this one I can see why it was cut, just because it kind of repeats some of the information that we got at the Amber Mine, where Hammond explains to the group that Lex and Tim's parents are getting a divorce and he's bringing them down to kind of distract them from their parents' divorce, which was their reasoning in the novel.
But still, it would have been fantastic. And again, would have, as he described it, Malcolm would have said that the group's here for inspection after all, not a weekend excursion, as we get sort of from Gennaro saying to Hammond later, or before when they're coming from the helipad. But it is sort of removing the double dialogue and that. But as we said last minute, we just want all this back in, no matter how mediocre it is. Or
one of the biggest kind of deleted scenes answers a long-standing fan question: is what made the Triceratops sick? And we kind of see hints of it left over within the movie itself, where at the very end of the scene of the Triceratops scene, we see Ellie and Tim crouched at the front of the Triceratops, and you can kind of see little stones within Ellie's hands. And we see this in the earlier in the scene as well, where Ellie picks up and finds a pile of stones at the base of the West Indian lilac. And this is a kind of a whole scene that was carried over from the novel, where the scientists all are poking around the site and find out that the Triceratops, when they eat the gizzard stones, they accidentally ingest West Indian lilac at the same time. And it occurs every 6 weeks because of the migration pattern that the Triceratops, well, in the novel, the Stegosaurus, are taking around their paddock. And the second half of the scene, though, that was kind of cut entirely. We get it a lot in the storyboards. We have a complete storyboard for it, not on the article here, but in the special features on the DVD, we see the storyboards where the Lex would have found a baby Triceratops nearby where the larger adult is, and she would have kind of wrote it in a way.
Another great scene from the novel that we would have got in the film.
And then there's a couple other here. Like during the journey to the shed, there was a point where they would have where Ellie and Muldoon would have passed the visitor center, and we have we don't have all of them here in the article, but there's a good 4 or 5 shots alone where we just have almost shot for shot stills of Muldoon when he came out of the the emergency bunker, and he in the movie we just see him and Ellie come out and close the door before, and the next we see of them is at the raptor paddock. But before they actually leave the emergency bunker area, Muldoon kind of just looks around with his shotgun in his hand before they take off across the compound.
It would have just made so much more of the geography of the area make sense. Just for the visitor compound alone, where the bunker is compared to the visitor center, and then onto the raptor paddock as well, or the raptor pen as well. And there's a couple there with Ellie coming back out of the shed as well after before she finds Grant.
Yeah, and of course a infamous deleted scene that Samuel L. Jackson has talked about is where he was meant to have an extended fight scene with the raptor in the electric shed. And then later, Ellie would have found actually more body parts of him than just the arm. She would have also found, I think, a leg of his as well, and it just would have been all around bloodier and gorier, I think. And they ended up cutting that because they were pressed for time, because Hurricane Iniki was bearing down on them as they were filming the scene with Ellie and Muldoon going to the shed.
That's such a shame, because the leg prop was made. I think Jurassic Collectibles has got it now, the actual prop, and the prop hand or the prop arm from that scene as well.
Does he really?
Someone does. I remember seeing someone had a YouTube video of it.
Wow, I'd love to be able to see if I can find that YouTube video, and if I do, I'd post it up when this minute goes live. But yeah.
If anyone listening knows which. It's one of the fan collectors that does the videos. I thought it was Jay for a minute, but I don't think it's him. I think it's Jurassic Collectibles.
Nah,
because I think they got it from that auction that was on a few years ago.
They have a couple of screen used props, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, head over to Jurassic-Pedia for all these cutscenes and more.
I could write all kinds of numbers on this check, Dr. Grant. Tell me, what's it going to take?
All right, before we get into 59, David, Santa's come early this year.
Oh yeah, I got a little Christmas in July going on. I got something I've been wanting for a while now, and it's just everybody knows the fiasco that went on with the Legacy Spinosaurus figure that Target ended up dropping the ball on. And how scalper prices have just been ridiculous, over $100 on eBay and stuff like that. Well, a buddy of mine turned me on to a less than reputable site, I guess. It's a Spinosaurus, and I was kind of unsure if I would ever even receive it because communication was just kind of crap. But anyway, it finally came last Thursday, which was really nice because I also, at the same time, had bought and was receiving a toy double-barrel shotgun that would suffice for my Roland Tembo cosplay.
Oh.
So I now have both the Legacy Spinosaurus finally, and of course, I took that thing and took pictures of it. I had to do the Spinosaurus versus T-Rex fight. I just had to. And then I also took some pictures of the double-barrel kind of rifle shotgun, whatever you want to call it. It's just a little toy, and it's Italian-made Edison Monte Carlo. And so it's got all metal, and the wood is plastic, but the rest of it is all metal. And it's a really nice little rifle. It's pretty accurate to the full-size thing, even though it's not full-size. It's only about 35 inches long.
That's all right. It just goes to completing that cosplay a little bit more. Costumes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was actually probably the only thing out of the accessories I don't have, and I'd like to get the belt as well, which is about the last thing I have left of that cosplay to accurately get.
It's probably the most expensive, though, is it?
The hat was pretty expensive, too. I was actually pretty lucky getting that for the price that I did. But the belt, finding it is somewhat of a rarity. So, Unfortunately, it's not something that I've made really a kind of mandatory item to be part of the cosplay, because nobody really notices that kind of thing anyway.
Yeah, you'd have to be a stickler to notice that.
Let's do this one at a time, shall we?
Alright, ready to get into minute 59.
Mm-hmm.
As we enter minute 58 of Jurassic Park 3, Grant had made his way solo across the bridge, fearful of a repeat of the collapsing stairs previously. As we open on 59, he looks around for danger, then turns back to the mist, and raises his hand to his mouth to yell, "Okay, come on over." At the 8-second mark, we cut back to Paul, Amanda and Eric standing at the other side of the bridge, as we hear something else from Grant being yelled in the distance. One at a time. Amanda turns and tells Eric it's okay, they'll be separated for just a moment, and it'll be right behind her. But Eric's embarrassed and says, "Mum, I spent 8 weeks on this island alone. I think I can handle the next 2 minutes without you." At the 24-second mark, Paul smirks at the comment, as Amanda turns and makes her way across the bridge. At the 43-second mark, we cut back to Grant as he's exploring some of the catwalks on the opposite side of the canyon. Several of the sections are damaged, with the wire mesh pushed out. At the 50-second mark, we cut back to Amanda as she reaches the other side of the bridge. Amanda turns around and yells, "Okay, Eric, come on, honey." And as the minute ends, we cut back to Paul as he pushes his son forward and Eric begins his trek across the bridge. As we ended last minute, Grant had made it across the bridge, and while the others stayed back and watched him disappear into the fog, and as we open up on 59, Grant sort of looks about the area, then turns and yells back, "Okay, come on over." And that's when we cut back to the others, as a second call comes across from Grant, one at a time. And we sort of get a bit of a slow scene here with Amanda, as she turns to address Eric. She says, "Okay, Eric, I'm going to leave you for just a minute, okay? And then you're going to be right here, or right behind me." And you can sort of see in Eric's face the embarrassment of being protected by his mother like this, and he sort of replies, "Mum, I've been alone in a water Mum, I've been alone in a water truck for 8 weeks. I think I can manage the next 2 minutes without you." Which is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's, to be fair though, I mean, she wasn't even sure if she'd ever even see her son again. So she's kind of overprotective of him right now. She's just going mama bear, you know?
Yeah. And I do love how we get the little smirk from Paul here as well.
Yeah, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, but Amanda turns and says, "Right, all together now." She briefly looks at Paul, and she sort of gives one last look at him and starts across the bridge. And it's sort of interesting, if there's more of a horror film, this would probably be where she would leave stage left, sort of after this passionate talk to her son. It's normally when someone dies. But we cut back as Grant's exploring more of the walkways, and he comes to a section where the chain link mesh is sort of torn outwards. And as we discussed in one of the earlier minutes when we come into the aviary, just how the mesh around these catwalks did appear to be burst out from the inside and not sort of broken inwards.
Which is interesting, because that would kind of imply that whatever is in here, which we know is the Triton, but they don't know it yet, the people inside had been plucked out instead of something breaking into it and getting into the catwalk, you know?
Yeah, yep. And plus it's interesting, so if those catwalks are there to protect the people, then you'd think there'd be a caged door when in any of the sections, like where it goes out onto the bridge and that, where the Pteranodon can land and walk into the sections.
That's a good point. And I didn't even think about that. It's like a really, really big design flaw.
Yeah. And there could be a door that was there and it's just been broken off its hinges or something, but at least one end of the bridge should have the door still there. Because even later on in the next couple of minutes, when they're running up the catwalks to go deeper into the canyon, just the way they're built and that, and how they're sort of put together around the canyon, some have got gaps about a foot wide where they sort of have to turn a corner or something, and there's no mesh in between those gaps either. Or there might have been
It's also funny because, I mean, even a simple kind of cyclone fence gate would have sufficed here. You don't even need a heavy metal door, just something that makes it look like you can't get in, because obviously they're not like raptors. They're not smart enough to realize, oh, hey, I might be able to open this, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And it'll be one thing to bring up when we do get into 61 and we're running up there, just how, like, there's no electricity in these fences that we know of. And did they know the Pteranodons were going to grow this big and be able to just burst through the mesh like that? But the catwalks themselves, there's a couple of production pics we'll put up on the Facebook group of them being made, and again, like the fence we talked about earlier, all being shiny and new steel before they sort of distressed and damaged up for the film. And they were all made in sort of the same sections and just put together on the canyon wall set, and that's when we see in later minutes where they're not sort of aligned right on the set, but we'll get to there when we get there.
Well, you can, like you said, we do see gaps in between the pieces of the fencing. In fact, some of them even look like they have some of the birdcage Pteranodon poo on there on the top.
Yep. No, we'll get that next minute as well. But we cut back to Amanda as she's reaching the other side of the bridge and turns back to Eric and goes, "Okay, Eric." And as we cut back to the others, we can hear a sort of voice